Hello family, enjoy this relaxing moment with Charm Stories. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section. Also generously hit the like button cause it means the world to us. Please sit back, relax and enjoy as we dive into the story. Natalie Carter's alarm clock shrilled at exactly 4 in the morning, a sound that would make most people groan and bury their heads beneath pillows. But for Natalie, it was a call to arms. She swung her legs out of bed and glanced at the tiny digital numbers glowing in the darkness. There was no time to waste. She had to get ready for another marathon day. She shuffled into the small bathroom of her modest apartment, splashing cold water on her face to shake off her lingering drowsiness. A quick glance in the mirror revealed the shadows under her eyes, small testaments to the relentless schedule she kept. Still, her reflection also showed quiet determination. She had a family to support and a future to build. By 4:30, she was dressed and stepping onto the silent street. Most of the city still slept, windows dark and streets nearly empty. The bakery where she worked, Sweet Rise, was her first job of the day. As she unlocked the shop door, a wave of warm, sugary air enveloped her. It smelled of rising dough, melting butter, and the faint hint of vanilla, a soothing aroma that momentarily lifted her spirits. Inside, she donned her apron and hairnet, methodically checking the ovens and preparing the display counters. When the head baker arrived at 5, Natalie had already stacked trays of pastries, arranged them behind the glass case, and wiped down the counters. She loved baking, though she rarely got to do much of the creative work. Instead, she restocked shelves, packaged orders, and greeted early customers seeking coffee and fresh donuts. An hour into her shift, her phone buzzed in her pocket. With gloved hands dusted in flour, she fished it out. It was a text from her 7-year-old daughter, Lily. Well, from the babysitter on Lily's behalf, sending a virtual hug and a heart emoji. Natalie's chest warmed. She missed Lily every second she was away, but these small moments reminded her of why she pushed herself to exhaustion. Every sacrifice, every sleepless day, was for her daughter's future. By the time the sun peeked over the horizon, Natalie had already bagged dozens of pastries for the morning rush. Her co-workers came and went, yawning and stretching, but Natalie was wide awake. She had to be. She discovered over time that diligence was her superpower. No matter how tired she felt, she could always squeeze out another ounce of energy for her family's sake. Once the morning crowd began to dissipate, her shift ended. Without missing a beat, she exchanged her bakery apron for her second job's uniform. Few knew the extent of Natalie's daily grind. She rarely spoke of it, determined not to sound like she was complaining or seeking pity. Still, there were moments she wished someone would look her in the eye and say, "You're doing enough. You can rest now." But rest wasn't an option, not when bills piled up and her dreams required funding. With a final glance at the now bustling bakery, she grabbed her purse and stepped out into the brightening world. There was a second job waiting, and after that, a third. For Natalie Carter, sleep was a luxury she had long since learned to live without. Arriving home in the brief lull between her bakery shift and her call center job, Natalie pushed open the apartment door to find Jake sprawled on the couch. The blinds were drawn, the TV flashed with images of a video game, and empty soda cans littered the coffee table. Jake's eyes flickered toward her, then back to the screen. "You're late," he muttered, shifting in place without pausing his game. "We're out of milk." Natalie exhaled slowly, mindful of the tension building in her shoulders. "I'll grab some after my call center shift," she offered, setting her bag down. She had hoped to catch a 5-minute break at home, maybe even brew a quick cup of coffee, but that clearly wouldn't happen now. Jake muted the TV. "Anyway, I've got a job interview tomorrow. Something in marketing, I think." He glanced at his phone. "I'm pretty sure it'll go through this time." He had said something similar last week, and the week before that. But Natalie forced a supportive smile. "That's great, Jake. Let me know if you need help prepping." Jake smirked, shaking his head as if the idea were laughable. "I've got it covered. Just need a chance to show them what I can do." "Of course," she replied softly, though her heart sank. The pattern was all too familiar. Jake announcing some vague lead, staying out late or sleeping in, and ultimately concluding that luck hadn't been on his side. Still, She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that one day he would walk through the door with an employment contract in hand, that their financial burdens would lighten, and that they could finally enjoy some semblance of a normal life. She thought of Lily, who worshipped her father, always asking when he'd have more time to play with her. As it was, Lily usually found him napping or glued to a screen. Natalie fetched her phone charger, her eyes darting to the bedroom door. Lily was at school, so she wouldn't see the messy apartment. That was a small mercy. "I'll just change clothes and head out," she said, trying not to sound weary. "Cool," Jake replied, unpausing his game. "Just don't forget the milk." Her stomach tightened at the brusque tone, but she let it pass. With a quick turn on her heels, she moved to the bedroom, reminding herself of her dream to open a bakery of her own. She'd been saving up for years. Every tip from the bakery, every extra hour scrubbing floors at night, everything went into the account she called her future fund. If Jake really did land a job, that future might become reality sooner. But if he didn't, she had to keep pushing on her own. She changed into a crisp polo shirt for her afternoon shift, quietly left the apartment, and closed the door. She ignored the sinking feeling in her chest. Hope was a fragile thing, but she clung to it. Someday, she believed, Jake's promises would align with reality, and their life would be better. Or at least that's what she told herself as she rushed to catch the bus. During her lunch break at the call center, Natalie scrolled through her phone, scanning job listings for Jake. She read the descriptions carefully, imagining him thriving in a stable position. She knew he had potential. He was smart and charming when he wanted to be. But potential only mattered if someone was willing to work. After a moment, she switched to her favorite pastime, browsing listings for empty commercial properties. Finding the perfect space for her bakery was a challenge, but she visited real estate sites nearly every day, saving links to every suitable listing. The call center's lounge buzzed with fluorescent lights and the hum of a soda machine, but in her mind, she pictured the aroma of fresh dough, the glimmer of polished display cases, and a cheerful pastel interior that invited customers to linger. She had the name picked out too, Carter's Confections. It felt personal, a tribute to her family, and a symbol of independence. She'd spent countless late-night hours tweaking the business plan. Every recipe was tested on Lily, who would devour the treats with wide eyes and an enthusiastic grin. As she stared at one particularly promising property, a quaint storefront near the downtown market, Natalie's heart fluttered. The monthly rent was steep, but not impossible. Her future fund was getting close to covering a down payment for the lease. She felt the excitement ripple through her veins. She was so close to this dream. In the call center, a buzzer signaled the end of lunch break. Natalie closed the real estate app and headed back to her cubicle. For the next few hours, she navigated irate customers complaining about faulty electronics or botched billing statements. With each call, she soothed them, her voice calm and empathetic. Despite the stress, she couldn't wipe the small smile from her face. Yes, her life was hectic. 3 jobs, a strained marriage, too little sleep, but this dream fueled her every step. At the end of her shift, her co-worker Ava caught up with her by the lockers. "You good, Natalie? You seem tired," Ava said with genuine concern. Natalie chuckled softly. "I'm always tired. But I'll survive. Text me if you need anything," Ava offered. "Seriously, I admire how you juggle all this." "Thanks," Natalie replied, forcing her lips into a reassuring grin. She slung her bag over her shoulder and headed for the door. She appreciated Ava's concern, but no one truly understood how precariously she balanced everything. If one thing went wrong, if Lily got sick, if a job cut her hours, if Jake refused to step up, her entire world could crumble. But she wouldn't dwell on that. She had a bakery dream to protect. She would keep working, keep saving. In just a few more months, if everything went right, she'd sign that lease. She clung to that shining future as she clocked out, ready to tackle her 3rd job of the day. It was nearly midnight when Natalie finally dragged herself up the apartment stairs. Her body ached from hours of cleaning offices in a high-rise downtown, but a spark of excitement danced in her chest. Tomorrow, she planned to withdraw a chunk of her savings to secure the down payment on that quaint storefront. She'd spent her breaks studying loan options, cross-referencing her budget, and double-checking her numbers. Yes, it would be tight, but this was her chance. She inserted her key into the lock with trembling anticipation. It turned smoothly, but the moment she entered, a strange silence greeted her. Usually, Jake would be on the couch, gaming or flipping through channels. Tonight, the lights were off. The entire apartment felt empty. Dumping her bags by the door, she flicked the switch in the living room. "Jake!" she called softly, not wanting to wake Lily if she was asleep. No reply. Glancing around, she noticed a scattering of items missing. Jake's favorite hoodie from the chair, his gaming console from the stand. A cold prickle of unease raced up her spine. Her phone buzzed with a notification, a low balance alert from her bank. Heart pounding, she quickly opened her banking app. The number on the screen made her head spin. Her savings, her precious future fund that she had guarded for years, was nearly gone. Thousands of dollars had been withdrawn in a single transaction. The transaction time was a few hours ago. Hands shaking, she tapped through her account history, desperate to confirm her worst fear. Indeed, an unauthorized withdrawal for the entire balance. Jake had access to that account. She had naively trusted him. Her voice broke into a ragged whisper. "No, no, this can't be happening." She scanned the apartment frantically, calling out again, "Jake, where are you?" But there was only silence. She rushed into the bedroom. Jake's clothes were missing from the closet, and the dresser drawers he used were empty. The painful truth sank in. He was gone, and he had taken every penny of her savings with him. Fury and heartbreak warred within her, tears spilling down her cheeks. She grabbed her phone and dialed his number, but it went straight to voicemail. Again and again, she tried, each ring a fresh betrayal. Finally, she sank to the floor, phone clutched in her trembling hand. In the adjacent room, Lily stirred, sensing her mother's distress. Natalie forced herself to calm down, standing on shaky legs to comfort her daughter. But inside, her heart shattered. All those late nights, those double and triple shifts, every sacrifice she had made, now lay in ruins. For the first time in her life, she felt truly helpless, caught in the unforgiving truth. Jake had betrayed her in the most vicious way possible. Morning brought no relief. After a restless few hours of sleep, Natalie awoke to face the harsh new reality. Jake was still missing. She checked every corner of the apartment, even the small storage closet where he sometimes tossed his junk. Nothing. A swirl of confusion and anger tightened in her chest. How could he do this to her? To Lily? She scrambled to contact the bank, hoping she could dispute the transaction. But the call left her numb. Jake's name was on the joint account, giving him legal access. The bank representative sounded sympathetic but offered no real solution. The money was gone, spent or transferred to another account she couldn't trace. "Mommy!" Lily's small voice came from the bedroom doorway, where she stood hugging her stuffed rabbit. "Where's Daddy?" Natalie mustered a reassuring tone, despite the lump in her throat. "He's away for a while, sweetie. But I'm here, okay?" She reached out, and Lily ran into her arms. Holding her daughter tight, Natalie fought tears, determined not to let Lily see the depth of her despair. Once Lily headed to school, Natalie's mind raced. She tried calling Jake again, straight to voicemail. She texted him, begging for an explanation, but hours later, there was no response. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. She considered calling the police, but he hadn't committed a crime in the eyes of the law. He had simply taken what he was legally allowed to take, if immorally so. Broken and desperate, she searched for any clue to his whereabouts. She found a crumpled receipt in the trash for a gas station 3 towns away, timed right before he emptied the account. Maybe he was headed out of state. Maybe he had another woman lined up. Her stomach churned at the thought. The day stretched on, each minute a slow torment. Her phone stayed silent, and the echo of betrayal clung to every inch of the apartment. She felt an overwhelming urge to tear the place apart, to rid herself of the memories of him. But she had to think of Lily, who needed stability now more than ever. Jake was gone, and so was her hard-earned bakery fund. She was alone, left to pick up the pieces. The heartbreak felt like a gaping wound, but beneath the pain, a simmering anger began to rise. She had given everything to support him, and he had repaid her with ruin. Eventually, exhaustion took over. In the quiet of her bedroom, she sank onto the bed, hugging Lily's plush rabbit. Fresh tears traced down her cheeks, but behind those tears, something else flared, a determination she hadn't felt before. Jake might have taken her money, but he wouldn't take her spirit. She would find a way to rebuild. Somehow, someway. 2 days later, Natalie sat in the small kitchen with her best friend, Ava. Ava listened in stunned silence as Natalie recounted everything. The missing money, Jake's disappearance, her shattered dream. By the time Natalie finished, Ava's face was flushed with outrage. "He drained your entire savings?" Ava repeated, struggling to contain her fury. "That slimeball, he can't just get away with that." Natalie stirred her lukewarm tea absently. "Legally, he can. The account had both our names on it. I trusted him." She felt foolish saying those words. Trust had always been her default setting, especially with someone she had once loved so deeply. Ava reached across the table and squeezed Natalie's hand. "I know it doesn't fix anything, but you're not alone in this. Let me help." That evening, Ava posted the story on her social media. She kept some details private but laid out the betrayal clearly. A hard-working mother, 3 jobs, an upcoming dream, robbed by the husband she supported. The post exploded. Within hours, strangers from around the country shared it, condemning Jake and offering words of encouragement to Natalie. By the next morning, #JusticeForNatalie trended on Twitter. Influencers chimed in, expressing outrage at Jake's actions. The injustice resonated with countless people who had experienced betrayal in their own lives, or who empathized with a mother struggling to make ends meet. At first, Natalie felt uneasy about the sudden spotlight. But as the messages of support poured in, she felt less alone. Comments ranged from heartfelt advice to righteous anger. "Stay strong, girl. He'll get what's coming to him. Don't let him break you." One message stood out in particular, a direct message from a name she recognized, Elijah Reed. He had been a college acquaintance, someone she remembered for his entrepreneurial streak and quiet generosity. He wrote, "Natalie, I saw what happened. I'm so sorry. I've been following your story online, and I'd like to help." She read it 3 times, unsure of what he meant. Did he want to set up a GoFundMe? Offer emotional support? She typed a cautious reply, curiosity tinged with a lingering sting of betrayal. She had no idea this message would become the first step toward a life she could barely imagine. For now, she allowed a tiny glimmer of hope to slip past her anger and heartbreak. The world might be filled with betrayal, but it also held unexpected kindness in places she never thought to look. Despite the viral outpouring of sympathy, the next few days felt like an endless freefall for Natalie. Her savings account remained gutted, her bills loomed, and Lily's innocent questions about her father stung her heart each time. Worst of all, the deposit she had painstakingly planned to place on her dream bakery was now impossible. Going to work became an exercise in willpower. At the bakery, customers recognized her from the viral post. Some offered kind words and larger tips, while others pressed her for more details about Jake's betrayal, as if it were juicy gossip. She tried her best to remain polite, but each reminder jabbed at her already raw feelings. Her afternoon shift at the call center was a blur of angry customers complaining about delayed orders or incorrect charges. She found it harder than ever to maintain her calm persona. More than once, she had to put a caller on hold just so she could take a few shaky breaths and steady her nerves. Late at night, she dragged herself to the office buildings she still cleaned. With each swipe of the mop, tears threatened. She was exhausted in every sense, physically, emotionally, financially. When she finally returned home after midnight, Lily was always asleep. Natalie would tuck herself into bed, thoughts swirling with fear and uncertainty. How would she pay rent next month? How would she provide the life she'd promised Lily? Her phone occasionally buzzed with messages of support, but none could solve the looming crisis of her empty bank account. What she needed was a lifeline. She scrolled through old photos of her and Jake, trying to pinpoint the moment he changed. Memories of him laughing with Lily, of birthday celebrations, of small acts of kindness. Where had that man gone? Rock bottom felt suffocating. In the midst of this swirling despair, she remembered Elijah Reed's message. She had sent a brief thank you, but no real conversation had followed. Perhaps pride had held her back, or maybe fear of another betrayal. But as her situation grew desperate, she decided it might be worth at least hearing what Elijah had to say. One night, after Lily was tucked into bed and the apartment was bathed in quiet darkness, Natalie composed a longer response to Elijah. She explained her situation plainly, avoiding self-pity but not hiding the grim facts. Then she pressed send, heart pounding with a flicker of renewed hope. Because at rock bottom, any hand reaching out might be the one that lifts you up. The following morning, Natalie woke up to an email notification from Elijah Reed. The message was polite but brimming with possibility. Natalie, I remember you from our college days. You were always the one who worked hardest, balancing multiple part-time jobs while studying. I have my own company now, and I'd like to invest in a business you're passionate about. If you're willing, let's discuss how we can collaborate. I truly believe in your talent and perseverance. Let me know if you're interested. Natalie's heart fluttered. A dozen questions sprang to mind. Why help her specifically? What was the catch? Yet, she sensed sincerity in his words. She typed a reply, cautious but intrigued, sharing her dream of opening a bakery. She explained how Jake's betrayal had wiped out her funds, but she wasn't giving up. She would work night and day to rebuild, if that was what it took. Within hours, Elijah responded with an invitation to meet over Zoom. That evening, after her shift to the bakery, Natalie borrowed Ava's laptop and set up in her living room. Lily sat in the bedroom, busy with a coloring book. Natalie felt her pulse drum in her ears as she connected the call. Elijah appeared on screen, a familiar warmth in his smile. He was older, of course, but the easy confidence she remembered was still there. "Natalie," he said, his voice a welcoming baritone, "it's really good to see you, even under these circumstances." "Likewise," she managed, fiddling with a stray thread on her sleeve. She briefly explained the heartbreak, the stolen money, and her lingering dream to open Carter's Confections. The more she spoke, the more Elijah nodded sympathetically. "I've followed your story online. It's heartbreaking, but also inspiring," he said gently. "I see how many people want to support you, but I also realize charity alone won't fix everything. You need a plan." Natalie leaned forward. "I do have a business plan," she said quickly. "But I lost the capital. I need to start over." Elijah grinned. "If you're willing to take a risk, I'd like to help with funding and mentorship. I started an investment firm a few years ago, and we specialize in small business ventures with high growth potential. I believe your bakery could be one of those ventures, especially with the viral support you've gained." Her mind whirled. This sounded too good to be true. I don't know what to say." "Say you'll consider it," he replied. "Let me send over a draft proposal. We'll talk about equity, profit sharing, everything. There's no pressure, but I think this could be the fresh start you deserve." Natalie swallowed hard, tears burning in her eyes. After enduring a week of devastation, here was a chance at redemption. "Okay," she whispered, voice trembling with cautious excitement. "I'm in." Elijah's face lit up. "Great. Let's do this." When the call ended, Natalie closed the laptop and buried her face in her hands. Relief, hope, and lingering fear all collided in her chest. She wasn't sure if this was the right move, trusting someone again so soon, but a small voice inside urged her forward. If she had the courage to love Jake despite his flaws, she surely had the courage to grasp a genuine opportunity when it presented itself. With that thought, she placed her hand over her heart, thinking of Lily, sleeping peacefully in the other room. This was for her, too. Tomorrow was another day, and for the first time in a while, tomorrow carried a promise she could believe in. Within 2 weeks, Natalie found herself navigating a whirlwind of paperwork, conference calls, and late-night brainstorming sessions with Elijah. His investment firm agreed to fund the launch of an online bakery business, a simpler first step before tackling a full brick-and-mortar store again. Natalie would craft the recipes, oversee quality, and manage customer service. Elijah's firm would handle marketing, website creation, and initial capital for supplies. At first, Natalie felt overwhelmed. She was used to following instructions at the bakery, not leading her own operation. But with each step, Elijah guided her, encouraging her to trust her instincts. "You've been working in bakeries for years," he reminded her during one of their strategy sessions. "You know what sells, you know customer preferences. Don't underestimate that." To her amazement, word spread quickly once the business, officially named Carter's Confections Online, went live. Encouraged by her viral backstory, people clamored for her cakes and pastries. The website crashed twice in the first week from excessive traffic. Elijah teased her, saying it was a good problem to have. The turning point came when an influencer with millions of followers posted a picture of Natalie's signature triple chocolate cake. Overnight, orders doubled, then tripled, forcing Natalie to scramble for additional baking help. She set up a small, rented commercial kitchen space, funded by Elijah, and hired 2 part-time assistants. Meanwhile, she kept her other jobs for the time being, worried that the new business might be a short-lived fad. But as days turned into weeks, the momentum didn't slow. Customer reviews poured in, praising the delicious flavors and praising Natalie's perseverance. The story behind the bakery became part of its charm, with buyers feeling like they were supporting a real-life comeback tale. Sitting at her makeshift office desk, an old dining table in her living room, Natalie reviewed invoices, shipping labels, and customer feedback. Despite the chaos, she couldn't stop smiling. She was no longer just an overworked employee. She was, in effect, a CEO, though she still felt too humble to call herself that. In quiet moments, she would remember the sting of betrayal. It still hurt, but it no longer defined her. Jake might have stolen her savings, but he hadn't stolen her ambition or resilience. She could feel life shifting beneath her feet, like a path she hadn't realized was there unfolding step by step. Lily also noticed the change. At bedtime, she'd snuggle up to Natalie and whisper, "Mommy, I'm proud of you." Those 5 words were more precious than any paycheck. And every day, Elijah sent encouraging texts or hopped on short calls to check on her well-being. She found herself looking forward to their conversations, grateful that someone outside her immediate circle believed so strongly in her potential. Bit by bit, a new future was taking shape, one that promised far more than sleepless nights and heartbreak. Before Natalie fully understood what was happening, her name, and her bakery, became a mainstay on social media. Videos of her decorating cakes circulated on TikTok, amassing millions of views. People loved the creative designs and heartfelt story behind them. Some users made reaction videos, proclaiming Natalie's sweet confections as symbols of hope. Local news outlets soon picked up the story. One station featured a segment titled "From Betrayal to Business Mogul," showcasing how a single mother, left penniless by her husband, turned viral sympathy into a thriving online bakery. Cameras captured Natalie gracefully piping buttercream roses onto a cake, her hand steady despite the nerves fluttering in her stomach. After the segment aired, orders spiked again. Bakeries across the city commented on the phenomenon. Many admired Natalie's hustle. A few criticized what they called overnight fame. But the general public sentiment remained overwhelmingly positive. People wanted to see her succeed. Elijah noticed the surge in attention and advised Natalie to scale up responsibly. "Viral fame can be fickle," he warned. "Keep delivering top-notch quality, make your customers feel special, and stay grounded." Natalie took his words to heart. She maintained personal touches in every order, including a small thank you note signed by her. She also started a short vlog on YouTube, where she offered baking tips and updates on her life as a new business owner. The videos garnered a loyal following, many cheering her on in the comments section. Those encouraging voices bolstered Natalie's confidence, yet she remained keenly aware of the precarious nature of internet fame. She'd seen enough stories of fast rises and faster falls to know she had to keep working harder than ever. Balancing her new business with her existing jobs eventually became impossible, so she decided, after much deliberation, to give her complete focus to Carter's Confections Online. Her days were still long, but the exhaustion now felt purposeful. This was her dream unfolding in real time. Every piece of feedback, every returning customer, became a new building block in the enterprise she had only imagined a few months prior. The internet's love for her story wasn't just about pity or novelty. It was about the warmth and promise people felt in every slice of cake she delivered. One afternoon, Lily bounced into the living room holding a phone. Mommy. Mommy. Look, a celebrity posted your cake. She showed Natalie a post by a well-known actress praising Carter's confections for a birthday cake that was the best she'd ever tasted. Natalie laughed in disbelief. I guess we're official now, huh? Lily giggled, hugging her mom's waist. That night, as orders continued to pour in, Natalie found herself overwhelmed with gratitude. She had lost so much, yet gained something she never expected: the unwavering support of strangers and the genuine backing of someone like Elijah. She murmured a silent prayer of thanks, wiping away a tear. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she was truly winning. In a stark contrast to Natalie's rising fortune, Jake found himself sitting on the balcony of a plush penthouse he had no business occupying. The dazzling city lights framed his reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows, but he couldn't enjoy the view. He was living with Vanessa, a wealthy socialite who had taken an interest in him, at least at first. Jake sipped from a crystal glass, the liquor burning his throat. When he had emptied Natalie's savings, he'd envisioned a fresh start with Vanessa, whom he'd met at an upscale bar. She had seemed smitten, impressed by his confidence and tall tales about being a rising entrepreneur. He'd spun grand stories of future success, hoping to secure a carefree lifestyle. For a brief moment, his plan seemed to work. Vanessa let him move in, showering him with gifts and introducing him to her affluent friends. Jake basked in the opulent setting, relieved to escape the mundane reality of job hunting and rent bills. But his facade cracked quickly. He never brought in any income, never contributed anything meaningful. He spent his days lazing around, sipping expensive wine, and making half-baked pitches for non-existent businesses. Vanessa was no fool. Over time, she noticed Jake's unwillingness to hustle, the shifting excuses, and the lack of any real plan. She began to question the stories he told. When she tried to pry more details about his supposed investments, he grew defensive. One evening, Vanessa confronted him in the marble-tiled living room. Jake, when are you going to get a job or start this business you keep talking about? He shrugged. It's in the works. These things take time. Vanessa folded her arms. Time? Or excuses? Because I'm not seeing any evidence of your big ideas. And you're burning through my credit cards. Jake's chest tightened. He thought about the money he'd stolen from Natalie. Most of it had been spent on partying and short-term luxuries. Now, those funds were nearly gone. He had hoped to leverage Vanessa's wealth to keep afloat, but she was quickly losing patience. Finally, Vanessa laid down an ultimatum: contribute financially, or get out. Jake's bravado faltered. That night, he tried to sweet-talk her, plying her with false promises. But Vanessa, having seen enough, made her decision. The very next day, while he was out, she packed his belongings into suitcases and left them in the building's lobby. Security escorted him out. So there he stood, alone on a busy street with a pair of suitcases and nowhere to go. In a twist of fate, while Natalie soared to new heights, Jake found himself lower than ever. Bitter regret gnawed at him, but a part of him still resisted taking responsibility. Surely, he told himself, he would find another opportunity soon. Someone else to latch onto. He was wrong, and the worst was yet to come. Back in her bustling kitchen, Natalie could barely keep up with the wave of new orders. A major investor had reached out with an interest in partnering with Carter's Confections. This was a different company than Elijah's, someone who had caught wind of the business's viral success and wanted a piece of the action. She met with them virtually and kept Elijah in the loop. The investor proposed a grand idea: opening a flagship bakery in the heart of the city, complete with a stylish cafe and a personal viewing area for customers to watch the baking process. It sounded like a dream come true. Are you sure we're ready for this? Natalie asked Elijah on a late-night call. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. He offered a calm smile. I think you're more ready than you realize. The question is whether you want to jump into a physical store or keep building the online business first. Natalie mulled it over, realizing that expanding to a physical location was exactly the dream she'd nurtured for years. She just hadn't expected it to come so soon. I want this, she said finally, her voice firm. I worked so hard to save for a bakery before Jake. Before everything. Now, thanks to your help, I can have that dream back." Elijah nodded. "Then let's do it. I'll help you negotiate the best terms. This can be the first official Carter's Confections bakery." And so began the planning for the grand opening. Word spread like wildfire online. After months of building her online empire, Natalie was opening a real storefront. Fans clamored for details: where it would be located, when it would open, and whether she would make appearances there. The investor spared no expense, transforming a vacant downtown spot into a chic, pastel-hued bakery outfitted with glass display counters and a large kitchen. The signage gleamed with her logo, Carter's Confections, in elegant script. Each step of the progress was documented on social media. Natalie's supporters cheered her on, promising to line up on opening day. The sense of redemption was palpable, a sweet victory after the nightmare she'd endured. During quieter moments, she'd think of Jake, how he had almost robbed her of this future. Now, she was living that sweet revenge. Success, independence, and a life she had forged on her own terms. It wasn't about vengeance or malice. It was about proving that she could rise above betrayal. And rise she did. Jake scrolled through his phone in a dingy motel room, the screen flickering with images of Natalie's booming success. She looked radiant, confidently standing in her new bakery, posing with employees and fans. The headlines read, "Viral Betrayal Victim Becomes Rising Entrepreneur," and "Carter's Confections Launches Flagship Store." His blood boiled. He had assumed Natalie would crumble without him, that she'd beg him to come back. Yet here she was, thriving in a spotlight that showcased his own treachery for the world to scorn. Online comments blasted him as a parasitic loser, a cautionary tale. He threw his phone onto the unmade bed, cursing under his breath. He'd reached the end of his rope. Vanessa's eviction had left him penniless. Friends distanced themselves, wary of his manipulative tendencies. And now, it seemed everyone was cheering for Natalie's triumph. He felt resentment twisting in his gut, but beneath it lay a growing panic. He needed money, a place to stay, any lifeline. Late one night, he tried calling Natalie's phone, half expecting it to be disconnected. It rang a few times before rolling to voicemail. He left a message, his tone a mix of desperation and forced contrition. "Hey, Nat. It's Jake. Look, I'm in a bad spot. I know I messed up. I'm sorry. Can we at least talk?" He hung up, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Maybe she would pity him. Maybe they could work something out. He was certain her success had to come with some sense of guilt. After all, they once shared a life, and Lily was still his daughter. When no response came the next morning, he texted her, pouring on a thicker layer of apology and regret. Still nothing. Panic flared. Without her help, he was as good as doomed. Finally, he decided the only way to reach her might be in person, at her grand bakery opening. The media hype guaranteed a large crowd, which made him nervous, but also gave him a platform to stage his public apology. If the cameras were rolling, maybe she'd be forced to accept. "Just you wait," he muttered to himself in the grimy mirror. "She won't turn me away in front of everyone." He tried to muster confidence, but it rang hollow. Deep down, he knew he was about to confront the very woman he had crushed. On a crisp Saturday morning, a line snaked around the block in front of Carter's Confections. The bakery's pastel decor glistened in the early sunlight. Journalists, social media influencers, and eager fans chatted excitedly, awaiting the ceremonial ribbon-cutting. Inside, Natalie, dressed in a simple yet elegant white blouse and a pastel apron, greeted employees and organizers. She felt a whirlwind of nerves and pride. This was the moment she'd dreamed of, her own bakery, a symbol of her resilience. Elijah stood beside her, offering a supportive smile. "Ready?" he asked, handing her a large pair of ribbon-cutting scissors. Natalie took a steadying breath. "As I'll ever be." She made her way outside, applause erupting as she appeared. Cameras flashed, and an event host directed everyone's attention to her. With a confident grin, she thanked the crowd for their support and sliced through the ribbon. The bakery was officially open. Reporters beckoned for interviews, but just as Natalie was about to answer a question, A commotion rippled through the crowd. People turned to see a man pushing his way to the front. Natalie's heart skipped a beat. Jake. He looked disheveled, desperation etched into his features. "Natalie!" he called, voice trembling as he tried to appear contrite. "I'm sorry. I need to talk to you." A hush fell. Phones whipped out to record the drama unfolding. Reporters sensed a headline, leaning forward with eager eyes. Natalie felt her pulse race, but she forced herself to remain calm. She'd imagined what she might say if Jake ever reappeared, but she never expected it to happen under the glare of cameras. Jake stumbled forward, arms outstretched. "Please, Nat, hear me out. I messed up. I was lost, and I—" He didn't finish, because Natalie raised her hand to silence him. In that moment, cameras zoomed in, capturing the tension. The crowd looked on, waiting for her response. She gazed at him, a whirlwind of emotions coiling inside. Then she spoke, her voice clear and unwavering. "You stole from me, but you didn't break me. You left me, but I found myself. Now, watch me win." The clarity and finality of her words electrified the crowd. Some people cheered, others stood in stunned silence, phones recording every second. Jake's jaw hung open, as if he hadn't anticipated such a definitive dismissal. He tried to stammer out a reply, but the crowd began booing him, telling him to leave Natalie alone. Embarrassed and defeated, Jake backed away. Security, stationed by the event organizers, gently guided him off the property. Natalie swallowed hard, adrenaline surging, but maintained her composure. She turned to the cameras, a shaky smile forming on her face. She felt an overwhelming mix of relief and empowerment, as if she had just closed the final chapter of a painful book. In the aftermath, the video clips spread online like wildfire. People praised her poise, her refusal to be manipulated. The line "Now, watch me win" trended on social platforms, becoming a meme of empowerment. Within an hour, the bakery was flooded with customers wanting a taste of her success, and a piece of her spirit. Elijah came up behind her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "You okay?" She took a trembling breath. "I think so. It's just surreal." He offered a reassuring nod. "You handled that beautifully. It's over now." Natalie glanced toward the edge of the crowd, where Jake had disappeared. She whispered, "Yes, it is." In the days following that public showdown, social media erupted with commentary. Some lauded Natalie as a symbol of strength and resilience, while others roasted Jake relentlessly, branding him a coward, leech, and worse. Hashtags like #WatchHerWin and #TeamNatalie trended across platforms. Memes circulated with images of Natalie cutting the ribbon, alongside text proclaiming, "From betrayal to boss." Major news outlets replayed the confrontation clip, analyzing her choice of words. Talk shows invited psychologists to discuss the emotional impact of betrayal and how Natalie's reaction resonated with so many people who had felt used or manipulated by loved ones. Jake tried to salvage his reputation, giving a half-hearted interview to a minor gossip site. He claimed Natalie had misunderstood his intentions and that he was willing to right his wrongs, but few believed him. Under the article, comments piled up calling him out, referencing his theft and laziness. Meanwhile, Natalie found her followers on Instagram and TikTok surging. Her YouTube vlogs, once casual updates, now drew hundreds of thousands of views each. People found inspiration in her journey, from the sleepless nights to the triumphant bakery opening. She received thousands of supportive messages daily, some from single mothers, others from aspiring entrepreneurs. Walking into her new bakery each morning felt like stepping into a dream. The aroma of fresh pastries, the hum of excited customers, the swirl of coffee machines, every detail reminded her of how far she'd come. She greeted patrons personally, signing boxes and occasionally snapping selfies with fans. Though the public attention could be overwhelming, she tried to focus on the joy of creating sweet treats that brighten people's days. One day, a local news anchor visited, filming a segment about her bakery's community outreach. Natalie had started a program to donate leftover pastries to homeless shelters. The piece ended with the anchor asking, "What's next for the woman who showed the world that betrayal can lead to bigger dreams?" Natalie smiled into the camera. "Growth. Not just for my business, but for every person who feels hopeless after being hurt. I want them to see that you can rise above any setback. Behind the scenes, the orders rolled in, profits soared, and expansions beckoned. The world had clearly chosen a side in this story, Natalie's side. As for Jake, he had become the cautionary tale, the man who tried to destroy someone's dream but only fueled her determination. Natalie couldn't deny the satisfaction she felt knowing karma was swift and public for him. Yet she tried not to dwell on vengeance. Her focus was on growth, on Lily's future, and on proving that no matter how deep the betrayal, one could always rise higher. Elijah swung by the bakery one afternoon after closing hours. He helped Natalie wipe down tables and restock ingredients. The two worked comfortably side by side, laughter punctuating their conversations. Over time, they had settled into a close friendship, though unspoken tensions stirred just beneath the surface. After the last table was cleaned, they sank into chairs by the window, the evening sun casting golden light across the space. Elijah hesitated, then cleared his throat. "There's something I need to tell you." Natalie tilted her head, sensing his seriousness. "Everything okay?" He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm not sure how to say this smoothly. I've admired you for a long time. Back in college, you probably don't remember, but I had a crush on you." She blinked, taken aback. Memories of college were a blur of working part-time jobs, studying, and rarely socializing. She had barely noticed the signals he might have been sending back then. Elijah continued, eyes flicking to the floor. "I never said anything because you were with Jake, and I respected that. But seeing you now, how strong you are, how compassionate, how determined, I can't hide these feelings anymore." Natalie's pulse quickened. She'd grown to depend on Elijah's support, trusting him in a way she never thought she could trust another man after Jake's betrayal. Yet the idea of opening her heart again frightened her. "Elijah," she began carefully, "I'm so grateful for everything you've done, and I care about you too. But I'm still healing. I can't jump into anything lightly." He nodded with understanding. "I know, and there's no rush. I just wanted you to know where I stand. You deserve happiness, in every aspect of your life." They shared a shy smile. For a moment, silence enveloped them, filled with unspoken possibilities. Natalie felt torn between excitement and caution. Could she truly risk her heart again? The memory of Jake's betrayal loomed like a dark cloud, but Elijah's kindness was a bright counterpoint. "Thank you for telling me," she said at last. "I'm not saying no. I just need time." Elijah's expression softened, relief mixing with warmth. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here, no matter what." They locked up the bakery, stepping out into the cool evening air. Natalie realized her story had shifted once again. It was no longer just about retribution or even business success. It was also about the tangled, fragile path to trusting someone new with her heart. Jake paced in a cramped apartment he rented with the last of his dwindling funds. His phone screen glowed with messages from an older woman named Denise, who had met him online and believed his sob story. Jake, desperate, spun another web of half-truths, convincing Denise to invest in a bogus scheme he pitched as a profitable venture, guaranteed to double your money. He expected to secure just enough cash to keep afloat, possibly even jumpstart a better con. But this time, fate intervened in a more dramatic way. Denise suspected foul play and alerted authorities, who traced suspicious transactions back to Jake. Late one evening, a loud knock echoed through his hallway. Jake opened the door to find two stern-faced police officers waiting. They handcuffed him and recited his rights. The look of shock and terror on Jake's face was almost pitiful. He blurted out excuses, tried claiming innocence, but the evidence was stacked against him. News of Jake's arrest spread quickly, especially since the media already knew his name from Natalie's story. Within hours, the internet buzzed with gleeful comments. "Karma finally got him. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Steals from women, ends up behind bars, justice served." Natalie heard the news while she was in the bakery's office, finalizing the next day's menu. Ava sent her a text with a link to an online article. The headline read, "Jake Carter, the man who betrayed viral entrepreneur Natalie Carter, arrested for fraud." Natalie stared at the screen, her emotions swirling. She felt a grim sense of relief. This was the man who had nearly destroyed her life, and now he was facing tangible consequences for his deceit. For a fleeting moment, she felt pity. Jake was Lily's father, after all. But pity couldn't overshadow the reality. He had made his choices, hurt too many people, and now justice had caught up. She closed the article, took a deep breath, and returned to planning her bakery's expansion. Jake's karma had arrived, and she didn't need to dwell on it any longer. The man who once held her life hostage with his broken promises was now exactly where he belonged, and she was exactly where she deserved to be, flower-dusted, content, and building her empire from the ground up. A year later, the world seemed to have changed drastically for Natalie Carter. With Elijah's firm guidance and strategic partnerships, Carter's Confections didn't just become a successful bakery, it morphed into a franchise. Branches sprouted in neighboring cities, each one echoing the same warm and inviting atmosphere that Natalie had cultivated in her flagship store. Buoyed by her immense online following, Natalie launched a subscription service for monthly specialty boxes. The concept caught fire, shipping her signature treats nationwide in curated packages. High-profile influencers continued raving about her brand. Investors flocked to her doorstep, eager to be a part of her meteoric rise. Within another year, she expanded internationally, opening a chic storefront in London and forming a partnership with a distribution network across Europe. Financial publications labeled her a self-made multimillionaire, though her net worth soared even higher due to strategic investments. Rumors of a billion-dollar valuation circulated among venture capitalists. At times, it felt unreal. She remembered the nights she had collapsed in exhaustion, working 3 jobs and believing she'd never escape that hamster wheel. Now, she traveled for business conferences, sharing her story of resilience. At each appearance, she emphasized the lesson she'd learned. No one has the power to destroy your dreams unless you let them. Despite her success, Natalie never lost sight of her roots. She set up a scholarship program for single mothers, offering not just financial aid but also mentorship opportunities. She hired women from disadvantaged backgrounds, providing flexible schedules to accommodate their childcare needs. Whenever she felt overwhelmed by her newfound wealth, she reminded herself of the woman who once came home to an empty bank account and an empty marriage. That memory kept her grounded. In interviews, journalists sometimes asked, "Do you feel vindicated now that you've surpassed Jake's wildest dreams?" Natalie's answer was always measured. "My success isn't about competing with anyone else," she explained. "It's about building a life that reflects who I truly am and what I want to give back to the world." Still, in quiet moments, she allowed herself a small smile. She had indeed gone from broke to a business magnate. And if that wasn't the sweetest revenge imaginable, she didn't know what was. Around this time, a respected filmmaker named Marisol Chan reached out to Natalie with a compelling proposal. A feature-length documentary detailing her journey from overworked mother to global bakery mogul. It would include interviews with Ava, Elijah, and even some of the employees who had been with Natalie from the beginning. At first, Natalie hesitated. The idea of having cameras follow her every move felt invasive, especially since her life had already been splashed across the internet. But Marisol's vision was different. She wanted a deep, personal narrative that went beyond viral headlines, a story of resilience, community, and the power of second chances. After some soul-searching, Natalie agreed, and production began. The film crew shadowed her at the bakery, at business meetings, at charity events, and at home with Lily, now 10 years old and helping bake cookies after school. Elijah also provided his perspective on the whirlwind journey. He spoke candidly about how he'd admired Natalie's spirit long before she found fame, a confession that brought warmth to Natalie's cheeks. When the documentary premiered on a major streaming platform, it quickly soared to the #1 spot. Viewers found themselves captivated by the raw honesty of Natalie's struggles and victories. The film showcased not just her success, but the sleepless nights, the heartbreak, the uncertain leaps of faith. Critics praised the documentary as a testament to human resilience, and the perfect blend of drama and inspiration. Fans flocked to social media, sharing clips that resonated with them. Natalie kneading dough at 3 in the morning, tears of relief running down her cheeks when she first read Elijah's investment proposal, her unwavering commitment to Lily's well-being. After it aired, Natalie's fan base doubled yet again, with messages pouring in from across the globe. She received letters from women in remote villages, from businessmen in bustling cities, from teenagers dreaming of a better future, all inspired by her story. Teachers used the documentary in classrooms to spark discussions about entrepreneurship, ethics, and the strength of a determined individual. Though it all felt surreal at times, Natalie took pride in the fact that her story might offer a beacon of hope. She had become an accidental role model, proving that anyone could turn crushing betrayal into the fuel that ignited an unstoppable fire. One brisk morning, as Natalie sat in her office reviewing franchise paperwork, her assistant brought in a stack of mail. Most were routine: invoices, promotional offers, and fan letters. But one envelope immediately caught her attention. The handwriting on the front was scrawled, almost frantic. She recognized it instantly. Jake's. Her pulse kicked up. She hadn't heard directly from Jake since his arrest. Though she knew he was in prison, the details of his sentence had barely registered in her busy life. Hesitant, she slid a letter opener along the sealed edge. The single sheet of lined paper revealed a rambling apology. Natalie, I'm sorry for everything. I know you probably hate me, and I don't blame you. I messed up, I was selfish, and now I'm paying for it. Every day in here is a reminder that I ruined the best thing in my life, our family. I see your success on the news. I'm proud of you, even if I don't deserve to be. I'm asking for a chance to make it up to you, if you can find it in your heart to help me. Maybe a loan for a lawyer, or just some money to survive when I get out. Natalie's eyes skimmed the rest. The tone was remorseful, but also self-serving. He wanted money. Shaking her head, she felt a familiar pang in her chest, a bittersweet sadness for the man she once loved, father of her child, now fallen so far. She carefully folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. She didn't respond. She couldn't. He had taken from her without remorse, left her at rock bottom, and now that she had rebuilt her life, he expected her to save him? No. She had moved on. If Jake truly wanted redemption, he would have to find it on his own. She pressed her lips together, a mixture of pity and resolve in her eyes. Then she picked up the next letter in the stack, already putting Jake's pleas out of her mind. For months, Natalie had her sights on one particular bakery location, the same cozy storefront she originally intended to lease before Jake stole her savings. The place held symbolic meaning. It was the spot where she once believed her modest dreams would become reality. Now, with ample funds, she struck a deal to purchase the property outright. She insisted on doing so in her own name, feeling it would bring closure to a painful chapter. Contract in hand, she visited the vacant space, flicking on the lights to reveal the familiar counters and display cases she'd once fantasized about. A wave of emotion washed over her. Here she stood, no longer the timid, overworked woman who second-guessed every step. She was Natalie Carter, entrepreneur and unstoppable force. She traced her fingers along the stainless steel countertops, reminiscing about the night she discovered her account was empty, about how that dream had slipped through her fingers like flour. But she had found a stronger dream, bigger than she ever imagined. Now, she returned to this small bakery space, not out of desperation, but out of choice. This would become a local community hub, a smaller-scale operation compared to her flagship store, designed to train novice bakers and provide hands-on workshops to inspire the next generation. Once the deal was finalized, she hosted a quiet, personal opening event. Friends, family, and loyal employees gathered. Ava brought confetti, Elijah brought a heartfelt speech, and Lily, now beaming with pride, cut a small ribbon. The atmosphere was less flashy than her downtown grand opening, but far more sentimental. Natalie wiped away a tear, feeling the culmination of years of hard work and heartbreak. She stepped behind the counter to serve a plate of freshly baked cookies. As she greeted guests, her heart brimmed with gratitude. The circle had come around fully. The bakery she once feared lost was now hers, free and clear. Word reached Natalie that Jake had been released from prison earlier than expected due to good behavior or overcrowding. She wasn't sure which. She found out not because Jake contacted her, but because a mutual acquaintance mentioned it in passing. For a fleeting moment, apprehension gripped her. Would he show up again, begging for forgiveness or demanding money? She braced herself for a call or a random appearance at one of her bakery locations. Weeks passed. Nothing happened. Then one afternoon, an unknown number flashed across her phone. She considered ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of her. She answered to hear Jake's shaky voice. "Nat, can we talk?" She inhaled slowly, chest tightening. The memories of his betrayal were no longer raw wounds, but she hadn't forgotten. She let him speak for a moment, hearing him rattle on about starting over, paying back debts, and seeing Lily. When he finally stopped to catch his breath, Natalie responded with a measured tone. "Jake, I think it's best for both of us if we don't communicate directly right now. If you want to see Lily, you need to go through the proper channels, legally." A long silence stretched across the line. Jake began to protest, but she quietly ended the call. Her heart pounded, but she felt no regret. She had no obligation to re-engage with someone who had proven himself untrustworthy time and time again. Over the next few days, Jake tried texting and calling. Natalie ignored every attempt. It was a silence that spoke volumes. Some might have considered it cruel, but for Natalie, it was the only path to preserve her hard-earned peace. Eventually, the calls stopped. Jake faded once more into the background of her life. And that silence, the refusal to rehash old wounds, became her loudest statement. She didn't need revenge in the form of confrontation. The best revenge was living a life that Jake could no longer touch. Amid the quiet but steady routine of success, Natalie realized she missed Elijah's easy company. They still worked together on expansions and marketing strategies, but he'd become more reserved after admitting his feelings. The time had come for her to decide if she was ready to open her heart again. One evening, she invited Elijah over to her original new bakery space after closing. The lights were dim, the ovens off, and the sweet smell of pastries lingered in the air. They sat at a small table near the window, the streetlights casting a warm glow inside. Natalie fiddled with her teacup, summoning courage. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began, voice tinged with nervousness. "Back when you told me you cared for me. I needed time." Elijah nodded, brow furrowed slightly as if bracing for rejection. "I understand. And I still mean what I said. I'll always be here for you, no matter what role I play in your life." She reached across the table, resting her hand on his. "I appreciate that more than you know. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You helped me achieve things I never thought possible." He exhaled, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "That's because you deserve every bit of success. And you're stronger than you realize." Natalie's eyes glimmered with unshed tears. "I'm ready to see where this could go, Elijah. I've been afraid, but you've proven over and over that you're not him. You're not Jake. You're you." His face broke into a wide grin, relief washing over him. "I'll spend every day proving you made the right choice." He squeezed her hand gently. They shared a lingering look, understanding passing between them. The tension dissolved, replaced by a calm, blossoming warmth. Outside, the city hummed, but in that little bakery, life seemed perfectly still. It was a new chapter for Natalie, one defined by trust, mutual respect, and the promise of genuine love. As they locked up and stepped into the night air, she felt a lightness in her heart that had been absent for too long. The weight of betrayal no longer defined her. Instead, she carried hope for a future where pain, while never forgotten, was finally overshadowed by a love worth waiting for. Natalie stood outside Sweet Rise, the local bakery where she once clocked in at dawn to fold boxes and stack pastries. A decade earlier, she was just another tired employee struggling to make ends meet. Now, she'd been invited back, not as an employee, but as a guest of honor to give a motivational speech to the current staff. It felt surreal walking through those doors again. She recognized the chipped tiles in the entryway, the familiar hum of ovens in the back. The manager, a kind woman named Teresa, greeted her enthusiastically. "Natalie, we're so honored you're here. Our team has followed your journey, and you inspire them to dream bigger." Natalie laughed softly. "Thank you, Teresa. This place holds a lot of memories for me." Teresa led her to the break room, where employees gathered, some nervously adjusting their aprons, others holding notepads. Natalie glanced around, recalling the long shifts, the hustle to get to her second job, the quiet lunches spent fantasizing about her future. She took a deep breath, feeling a wave of emotion. When it was time to speak, Natalie stepped forward. She told them about her past, but not just the betrayal and the viral fame. She spoke about perseverance, how it was forged by daily choices, by grit, and by believing in oneself even when circumstances seemed insurmountable. "I used to stand behind that very counter," she said, pointing to the front of the store. "I'd wonder if I'd ever escape living paycheck to paycheck. Today, I want you all to know that if you have a dream, no matter how big or small, it's worth fighting for." She ended her brief speech to thunderous applause. Some employees wiped tears, nodding vigorously. Outside, Elijah and Lily watched proudly. As she concluded, Lily ran up to give her a hug. "Mommy, I'm so proud of you," she whispered, eyes shining. Natalie felt a swell of gratitude. Life had come full circle, giving her the chance to stand in the very spot she once occupied as a weary employee, now as a beacon of possibility. She silently thanked her younger self, who had refused to quit despite crippling fatigue and heartbreak. Without that perseverance, she wouldn't be the woman she was today. Under a dazzling afternoon sun, Natalie hosted an outdoor event celebrating the official 10th anniversary of Carter's Confections. A large stage was set up beside a community park. Families strolled about, enjoying free samples of her bakery's creations. Music played softly in the background, and a sense of joy pervaded the air. The highlight of the day was a short speech by Natalie, where she planned to share a final lesson. As she stepped up to the microphone, applause erupted. The crowd, fans, friends, and newcomers alike, gazed at her with admiration. She spotted Elijah in the front row, smiling encouragingly. Lily stood beside him, her eyes brimming with pride. Natalie cleared her throat. "Thank you for being here to celebrate not just a business milestone, but a life milestone," she began. She glanced at the banner overhead. From struggle to success. She recapped her journey briefly, then looked at the audience with a serene resolve. "Betrayal can feel like the end," she said, her voice resonant. "It can break your heart, your trust, and even your spirit, if you let it. But betrayal doesn't have to define you. In fact, it can refine you." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I stand here not as someone who never fell, but as someone who refused to stay down. And that's what I want for each of you, to keep going, no matter how many times life knocks you off your feet." A roar of applause and cheers erupted. Cameras flashed, phone screens lit up, capturing every second. Natalie's chest filled with an indescribable warmth. She glanced back at Elijah, and then at Lily. This is what victory feels like, she thought. Not the flashy wealth or the viral fame, but the quiet, profound knowledge that she had risen above her darkest moments to shape a future filled with hope. She concluded, "Never let betrayal define you. Let it refine you." "Thank you." The crowd stood, clapping and shouting words of affirmation. As she stepped off the stage, Elijah enveloped her in a hug, Lily clinging to her side. Cameras swiveled, capturing the tender moment. In that powerful final scene, with the sunlight reflecting off her tear-filled eyes, Natalie Carter's story came to a close. She had been a woman who never slept, who gave everything for a dream only to have it stolen by the man she trusted most. Yet she chose not to stay broken. Instead, she built herself anew, forging a legacy that would inspire countless others. Her ending wasn't about punishing Jake, that part took care of itself. It was about becoming the woman she was always meant to be, strong, compassionate, fearless, and free. I'm glad you made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please go ahead and generously hit that like button and subscribe for more captivating tales like this. We'd love to hear from you. What lessons have you learned from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next story.